I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a book club podcast.
And we're back to high fantasy.
Back to high fantasy-esque-ish?
I don't know. That's just, I saw that as like one of the tags under the descriptor. It basically had
There's definitely high fantasy in that there's magic. Right. And there's this other race of humanoid things that are doing magic things.
Yeah, for sure. And
it's so, like, it's high fantasy, I guess, but I don't think we're going to find a dragon. You know?
Yeah, no, is that the rule for high fantasy? Dragon?
I think that's just like what you think of first, you know?
Shrek is a high fantasy.
I think you think of a green dragon, you think of a knight fighting it.
Yeah.
So the knight went to like a wizard's tower to ask him advice. You know, like I think that's like the first thing you think of.
Okay.
Or at least it's the first thing that I think of.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's all sorts of, nuance to any genre, but that's what I always think about.
Yeah.
You know? And then this is taking place like on actual Earth during an actual time of history. It's taking place in Russia under the Tsarist rule. Mm-hmm. There's real world issues with, our first set of characters are Jewish and they are dealing with discrimination.
Yeah, they're almost like non-stereotypical Jews, like in the harshest like stereotype, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like they're moneylenders, which is, I guess, might be a stereotype.
It's pretty stereotypical.
Like, but he's like the nicest, penny pinching, like.
And then like the one that she goes to for the jewelry stuff, he's a Jew. He's a jeweler.
Yeah.
These are kind of like stereotypical functions at the time. I meant to look up to see if the author was Jewish.
Naomi Novchik or something like that.
Maybe. Just because I was curious, I was like, you're kind of writing these Jewish characters into Jewish corners, and that's interesting if you're not Jewish.
Yeah.
Which, it wouldn't matter to me because I'm not Jewish, so it can't offend me in any way, but or at least not on a personal level. But it's just interesting. Like, as I was reading, I was like, okay, these Jews are moneylenders, which we don't know immediately. Mm-hmm. We don't find out until some point after they visit their grandparents for the first time or something, that we see anyways. And then this one's a jeweler, and they're being discriminated against, and like all these things that was like, man, if you don't have like a personal stake in this, it's just interesting for you to write about.
Jeweler and jewelry.
I should look it up before I say too much.
Those words don't have anything in common other than
like a common etymology. Right? I don't think so, okay. But I don't know.
Me neither. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that they're handling. I mean, jewelry is kind of like a common element for something that they handle in this.
Right. Those are also like. For all I know, jewel is an English word for that. Like it probably has a different name in another language.
Yeah.
I don't know who gave them. I guess they gave themselves the name Jews, but they have their own language as well. And is jewel the same in Hebrew? Because if so, then maybe.
I would love to find like a bunch of diamonds and gems and stuff and name them like Wills. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the Jews.
Right.
Like Jewish people found a bunch of diamonds and stuff. I'm sure that's not what happened, but you've been enjoying the book though, right?
Yes. Sort of tentatively still.
Yeah.
There's a lot about it that I enjoy.
And it's really long, so I feel like it's definitely taken its time to get set, and it's a world that's already established in one of her other books. So there might be a few things, at least world building wise, that if we had read, one of her other novels, that it doesn't matter with this story, but it might help us just with like foundation, like how you and I both had a little bit of foundation with The Witcher, reading the prequels before going into the first book. Mm-hmm. So
I'm trying to just very briefly skimming through her Wikipedia just to answer my question, is she of Jewish descent? Just out of a curiosity thing. And what I see here is not about that, but just about Uprooted, the novel that, takes place
in a similar universe.
Yeah, it seems, at least by the Wikipedia description, says has a bit about Uprooted, which is set in a fantasy world inspired by the Kingdom of Poland. And then Spinning Silver, a 2018 novel, is set in a similar fantasy world.
Oh, gotcha. My bad.
So, but this is also just the Wikipedia article. Yeah. I think it's pretty clearly designed to be Russia, or like an analog for Russia. Yeah. I think that's all given.
Yeah, even the voice actors have like a Russian accent.
They're going for that, yeah.
For sure.
It's like the names are very, Russian or like Euro-Russian, and the the fact that they're all, it's under the Tsarist rule, prior to the revolution and all that. So it really threw me off whenever that stuff started being revealed. Mm-hmm. Like at first it's like, okay, it's a fantasy world. I know that she's doing some sort of magic thing because she's spinning silver or whatever, is what is presented to you at the beginning. And then like and then they start saying things like, SARS, and I was like, okay, well, that's just using, the name of king effectively in, the Russian language at that time, to just describe what a king is. That's not a stretch to put a real world or real word into a fake world.
They're just based loosely.
Right. Like you wouldn't necessarily call something else a sword something else just because it's a fantasy world. Like,
wouldn't that
you
be
would just
weird?
Call it a sword. That would be super strange, and I feel forced if somebody did do that.
Oh yeah, that would be crazy.
But like same principle, like just use a word that you already have. You don't have to make up something. I mean, they do the same with king. We use king in every fantasy, certainly Western fantasy novel. And then at some point it just threw out the word Jew, like we're Jews, and they're not gonna. No one would ever employ a Jew, I think, is like the phrase that it works or uses to to finally reveal that bit of information. I was like, oh, is this the real world? What is going on here?
Jews are a classic character in high fantasy. Have you read many high fantasy novels? Will?
Apparently not.
I mean,
but
right
totally
after the dragon, that you meet the Jew.
Right, that's true.
In every video game.
Right. And then, like, slightly before they threw out, the Jew moniker, they introduced us to the idea of the Varstic, whatever they're called.
That sort of other race.
Mm-hmm. That humanoid race that, preys on humans, and humans have no way to defeat them.
And basically who, like, our main girl is sort of being forced to marry.
Yeah.
The king of that, like he's not a czar though, right?
Yeah.
So that's
I think he refers to himself as a king. Yeah.
We immediately
the
drop
king
czar.
of the mountain or whatever. King of the ice mountain, I think he says.
And it's like a threat.
And so they'd already introduced that element. I was like, so there's some sort of magical thing happening here.
Yes.
And then, but it's also the real world. And so I just wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. And even in this world, like as you already said, and as the title says, like the spinning silver, that sort of rumor gets kind of spread around all the way up to the king, to where he's like, oh, you
well, she declares it on the road home from Vicinia one day with her mom or whatever. She's like fighting. She's like, would you rather we still be poor?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Back when Dad couldn't fucking get it done, but so now I'm getting it done. And
didn't he show up like the next day at her house?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you're coming with me. I heard you.
Because they could see the Varstic road off in the woods.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And it's in that moment she's getting mad at her mom. And she's like, you have a daughter that can turn silver into gold, blah, blah, blah. And I guess it's within earshot of the road. So the king hears that and then comes back. Yeah, it comes the next day. And after, trying to track him down a little bit, finally gets a hold of her and, says, you said you can make silver into gold.
If you can, and you really impress me, we'll get married.
Right.
That's his golden goose, but he gets to marry it.
Right.
That's pretty good. Pretty good.
Right. You would think it's not really a bad idea. He didn't want to. I think at least the way that it sort of impressed upon me was that he was hoping that she would fail at a point. That way he got, a bunch of free gold out of her and then didn't actually have to marry her. Because I think that he was originally just going to force her, obviously you're going to do this for me.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe of the Rumpelstiltskin kind of thing that every little hook article about this is going to reference that this book is loosely based on, where he could basically use her to get a bunch of gold,
Right. But then for whenever he drops off the second amount of silver, she's like, and what do I get for doing this? And he goes, oh, I'll marry you.
I'll marry you.
Because I guess they value gold so much that would be
at least
an equitable trade in his opinion. Because he then goes on to continue to be honorable, or at least holds his word. He's like, I said I was going to marry you. I don't fucking want to. You don't fucking want to. But you went and fucking did this thing I didn't think you could do that I promised you I would do this if you did it. So we're fucking married now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, though, he's got to lock it down. I mean, that is a money maker.
Right.
She's the breadwinner, and he can do magic.
And then, it just turns out that she can actually turn silver into gold.
Yeah.
Which happens when she gets to the castle. But there was an interesting throwaway line that I was waiting to see if it would come true, and then it obviously did at the end of this last chapter, where she's trying to get out of the marriage or whatever, and she says, what if I can't actually turn silver into gold in your world? What if I can only do it in my world? Because she knows that she could only do it in her world because she's doing it through trade. And he's like, no, what is claimed, what is, he says, like, what is claimed, questioned, and then proven 3 times is. And so then she does it 3 times, and now that she's there, she can actually do it.
Yeah, I feel like the 3 is going to be obviously a common theme in this story. Like there are 3 girls that
it
we're
seems
following.
to have just to do, yeah, that too. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. But I think that at least her deal being able to has to do with like the magic of their promise keeping, because then like whenever she makes a new deal for like, okay, we don't have to bang. What will you give me for me foregoing my right to our nuptials? And she's trying to figure out, okay, so do we shake on this deal now? And he's like, no. And she's like, well, what makes it a deal? And he says, ask me 3 more times or something like that. It has something to do with like, there's like magic in their way of agreeing to things. And I think that has a lot to do. 3 is a magic number.
Yeah. And that is the thing, honestly, that like I'm listening to another fantasy novel like right now that it's one that I've already listened to. So it's kind of just, feel good, for me right now. But they have this kind of theme where, they say it 3 times, and it's kind of just like, okay, that means like I've got it locked and memorized. Like if say like you and I were gonna pull off a heist or whatever, I'd be like, dude, say it 3 times, and then we'll go, and then you'd tell me the plan back, probably just once, and then we go. Yeah. But like the idea was like, just if say, make sure you know it. If you can say it 3 times, you know it. So yeah, I mean that must be a common thing. Also in Beacon,
it totally is.
Beacon 23. I don't know why I always think of that book, but the only thing from that book that sticks to me is just that trouble comes in 3s. And I think that happened in a Stephen King book or in Salem's Lot, like right after we read that.
3 o'clock in the morning is the witching hour. The rooster crowed 3 times. By the time
Striga back.
Well, right? That, but also in the Bible.
Oh, I was like The Witcher.
No, not the rooster crowed 3 times, but Judas denounced Jesus 3 times before the rooster crowed.
Dang, Judas!
And there's like just a million things that are 3. 3 is a very classically magic number, and when things happen in 3s, it's supposed to be meaningful and all this sort of stuff. So
is that why they only like crown the top 3?
I guess so.
I wonder if they thought about it that hard and were just like,
Right. Yeah, at what point did they start having 3 places in competitions? Just whenever there were enough people that was still considered like a prestigious number to be 3rd amongst 20, as opposed, because why would you honor the 3rd place in a 4-person race?
Right.
That wouldn't make any sense.
The Olympics have been around for a long time too, since like the 1800s, I think. Like late 1800s.
Well, the Olympics as we know them, yes, but the Olympics has been around since Grecian times.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it was the Greeks started it to prevent war. They're like, what if we just get all of our states together for this athletic competition? Then that'll get our aggression out. We can fight each other in a symbolic way.
I bet it was a bunch of women that were like sitting around at like the women's round table, and they're like, hey, all the guys are too freaking testosteroned up from all this from all this war. Let's just get them to play a game.
We just get them to fist fight each other.
If we can just have them all play it out just like kids. I feel like that's something at least I've heard moms make that like, let's just hire them out and then we'll be good.
Right.
But
yeah.
This book is really long, like I've already said. At least it feels long to me. Like looking,
we still have another like almost 300 pages.
I think, for me it says like 15 hours or something, 13 hours, something like that. And it's just some of the other books that I've read that really stick with me, like The Name of the Wind. That one is like 26 hours, and Game of Thrones. That one's like high 20s in the hours. I think Salem's Lot was up there too. It's just like, I like the pace that this is going. It's taking its sweet time, and I don't feel like
it is, but it isn't, because like I would have thought that marrying the Ice King would be a big confrontation,
and it's
happened in the first 10 chapters.
Yeah,
I just, at least as for what I was expecting, but I also wasn't expecting that we were jumping between 3 characters and 3 stories.
Very true.
So that was outside of my expectancy. But yeah, like all the big things have already happened. Like the Duke's daughter is now married to the Tsar and is running away. What I'm going to continue to call our main character, Miriam, is now married to the Ice King and Wanda, the farmer's daughter, is now running from home because her father's dead.
Are all those Russian names? Miriam, Wanda?
Miriam's a very Jewish name.
Oh, yeah. I forgot they were Jewish.
Wanda, I don't know what that would maybe
She's a farmer.
from.
She's a redneck.
Yeah, right.
That's a redneck name. I'm just kidding.
The Duke's daughter is a pretty Russian name. It's like it's a Irina or something like that. They say Irina for short, but she's got like her full name is a little bit more fancy.
Yeah.
As befitting a Duke's daughter.
Yeah. I mean, I really do like the narrators. They're either from that area, or they can do a good accent at least for it. One, not like I'm the master of accents, but
right. It's convincing to you.
Yeah, it's good enough. Excuse me. And I've been really liking it, and
I'm definitely enjoying it. I'm not ever feeling like it's slow.
Yeah.
Or that I'm like, okay, what's next? But at the same time, like, I don't care about the Duke's daughter. Mm-hmm. As a character, I just don't care for her yet. She's pretty blank.
I mean, honestly, all the characters, they kind of make... I feel like they give everybody some depth, where it's not necessarily just like... There's really just one character that I think of that is just like, for sure, absolute evil, the
farmer's dad, Wanda's father, who's now dead.
But I feel like a lot of them, they give this depth where they're not just like, we completely fall in love with Miriam or whatever, because she's kind of a bitch sometimes, because she's got to be hard, because she's grown up in this really, really rugged, hard life of being so broke, and her dad being so nice, and it just like, and them always getting behind him having to sell like her mother's dowry to like try and get even barely caught up, and then he never can, and then she just has to like, apparently she just like sees all the weakness. She sees it as weakness, I guess, but all the kindness that's been taken advantage, and she's like, I'm just going to do it back to them and just like get what's due. And I think the mom and dad have some issues with it, but they obviously
totally
do,
yeah.
because at one point they confront each other like, would you rather still be poor? And the mom was super sick, that's why
that's what drew. Yeah, her mom was going
she had to
die.
Take over. Yeah, because the dad couldn't. He couldn't do it. He had his heart in the right place, but that doesn't run a business. Which is, I guess, maybe
that's certainly in a town where
reality.
Like everybody knows they can take advantage of you,
yeah.
and is also against you because you're in a situation where you're prejudiced against. You're in this situation a Jew,
yeah,
and the town is not Jewish, and they all hate you because you're. Well, not hate you, but think down and lowly of you because they're refugees in this country. They've come from what I think we're given to believe is the Middle East.
Yeah. Well, there's no winning for them. I mean, the dad is super nice and then he gets taken advantage of, and then the daughter's super harsh and then it's hated.
Right.
Like there's no winning for them, and both of those characters being, there's a big balance, because obviously we're following around Miriam, and I feel like I do like her, but she is kind of harsh in a lot of situations,
right.
Realistic and harsh. And I feel it's almost like Simon Cowell from American Idol, like how you like him because he's like, he gives good constructive criticism. He's not just there like collecting a paycheck, just
right.
saying like, good enough. We'll let the fans decide. But
I'm invested in her story.
Yeah, I like hers.
And I'm invested in Wanda's story.
I was about to say that as well. Just with the dad trying to sell her off, and then this big fight, and then him dying.
Right.
It's like, fuck yeah, I'm so glad he's gone. And then Wanda's like an Amazon, right? Like, isn't she huge?
She's just a big farm girl.
Yeah, she is. I like that.
She's like just, they kind of, I don't know how outright they say it, but they do describe her as being, maybe as being tall.
Does she
I
have
don't know
red
if
hair?
they intended to say taller than most girls, but they say tall.
Whether they said she has red hair or not, she does in my mind.
There you go.
Does she?
Maybe.
Does she for you?
Sure. I was just going with standard, just like brown.
Oh, I made it like, yeah, maybe it is brown. Like in Scooby-Doo where like that farmer's daughter or whatever, like always would like hit on Shaggy or whatever. Maybe I'm thinking like Dukes of Hazzard or whatever. They had like a Dukes of Hazzard meets. Yeah, that's a blonde girl. Never mind. I guess I just like obviously couldn't make the connection.
I think your classic farmer's daughter in those kinds of classic movies where the farmer's daughter is like
the pigtails.
She's like an item, an object or whatever. They're usually blonde in those character roles.
Yeah, in mine it's the same thing but red.
Or straw-colored hair. The description straw-colored hair is very common.
So they
for
can go
farmer daughters, I
romping
think.
around in the hay bale or
Right.
the hay. You wouldn't go romping in a hay bale. You go romping in the hay pile.
You would if it was Scooby Doo. They jump into those hay bales like they're water.
Oh yeah, and they kind of go like,
Yeah.
like kind of.
But yeah, I'm invested in those two stories. I don't care about Arena yet. Hopefully at some point she develops some character. But characters like her are always really bland and nothing at first because they're just like, their whole lives have just been like living inside the house in the room. And certainly the ones that are disenfranchised like her, where she's not beautiful enough to be wed off to somebody of probably even equal status, you know.
Yeah, she'll have a lot of room to grow as the book goes, I think. You know,
I would hope so. As she like finds herself and you know,
Right.
other tropey sort of ideas for a character like that.
Yeah.
Which might continue to be a reason that I don't become invested in her.
Yeah.
Is be like, okay, this character is just only a trope, which is fine amongst two other characters that I'm invested in, but disappointing.
Yeah. I wonder if like these three characters are kind of fulfilling like I don't want to say fulfilling like you know predisposed character roles, you know, but let's not even do that. I was about to say, like, let's break them down and see if we can. But no, let's not do that. Because, I mean, that might take a little bit of the fun out of it. And I want to see the, you know, that third character. I always forget her name. You just said it.
Arena.
I want to see her grow, you know.
Yeah.
So don't
I think that to a
degree.
degree, that might be the point as well, is to have these characters be archetypes of these classical stories, because this is a classical, it's a retelling of a classical story, you know.
And everybody has like a lot of depth, like we've been saying. So I think there's going to be likable and dislikable features about everybody, you know, and that's honestly kind of cool. It's sort of refreshing. There's not just like one character that we can blindly follow and love. Like I'm like the other book that I'm listening to right now, there's just a main character that's sort of like he can do it like anything, you know, like he always kind of figures his way out of it, and you know,
he's
like,
just capable.
He's very
and
capable.
He's the main character, so
exactly.
of course we care about him.
Yeah,
you know,
and so it's fun, you know, if you want that kind of story, and that's exactly what I wanted. That's why I got it, you know. But and like I said, I've already listened, so it's really just like a feel good sort of story to hear.
Right,
but
sometimes you need candy, you know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm doing it as, some ear candy, you know. And this is refreshing because everybody has a lot of depth, and nobody is just this kind of simple. You know, character that is going to figure their way, you know, as simple as a genius character is, like, you know, Jimmy Neutron was pretty simple, but he figured his way out in a fun, sciencey way through everything. It was the science experiments that were the cool thing about the show, not necessarily Jimmy Neutron, who was just a simple kid.
Right.
Like, he's a simple character because he's just a genius. The interesting thing was the science, and then his friends.
Yeah, the story there was the fantastical
trouble.
nature of the situation,
and then his
the
friends,
solution,
us living vicariously through his friends and being
Right,
like, wow.
Jimmy Neutron's not an interesting character.
Exactly.
He's excessively capable.
Yeah.
It's like just him as a character, you know, just being a child that's a super genius is the joke or whatever that like kind of makes you laugh. It's like, ha, a kid did that. And then the story that you're there for is for the ridiculous situation and his not obscene, but just like extraordinary solution to that ridiculous situation, you know? Yeah. And in that sort of storytelling, I think that is the way you have to go. Because if you just had like an ultra capable character doing boring things, you'd be like, well, there's nothing to care about here.
Yeah, it is kind of funny how Rick and Morty's done. You know, Rick is the super genius character, but he's still got a lot of depth, and you know, but he's exactly. I guess it's more relatable like this show. How like they built several seasons developing. Not just like the first season, everybody had their role and they fit this stereotype, not necessarily stereotype, but they fit a model that worked well. And then, you know, as the seasons went on, you got more depth on each of the characters, and it wasn't just like how with Jimmy Neutron, there's the simple character. They all had depth. Even the dad, who's literally the most simple minded, had a lot of depth too. Cause, you get emotional watching him, you know, go through stuff with his family. Yeah, and that, you know, that's, I feel like I'm really interested. I'm trying to compare that to this book to Rick and Morty, I guess, because I just, with every character, even the two different dads having a lot of depth. Well, I guess the one dad didn't really have too much depth, but I don't know. I just feel like with all the girls and like even the side characters just have depth to me. So it's not just like nothing is black and white in this, and I feel like it's just going to be, I'm not going to be able to expect really anything. Does that make sense? I'm not going to be able to see anything coming.
Yeah,
Not like I have no expectations for this.
Right. Yeah.
I have no expectations. This book is going nowhere, and
Yeah, I think that the characters are pretty good.
Yeah.
I agree with pretty much everything that you're saying. I hope that Irina's story picks up pretty soon.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like we mentioned earlier, it has to. All the major catalysts of these three characters' stories has happened at this point, all in the last chapter.
I really like breaking the books into threes. Sorry, I know that's a little off topic from what you were saying, but it just like you were saying with Irina's character, we got her almost like right at this last little bit was just like,
Yeah, I don't think we see her until chapters like maybe chapter 6 or 7, like halfway through this section is when we're first introduced to her. But that's when Miriam first goes to Visnia to do the, to turn the Vristix silver into, things that she can sell for the gold. And then that gets to the Duke, which then obviously then gets to the Duke's daughter. So that's the train we have to follow, just in the same way that we were with Miriam up until the point that she then goes to the farm to collect and employs Wanda. So that's when we first meet Wanda. So, time-wise, it makes sense that that's when we finally meet her. But yeah, everything happened for her much quicker, obviously, than the other ones.
Yeah.
I think that intentionally, the three catalysts had to happen in the same chapter. Or not, that's not what I meant to say, but I think that the author intended for all three catalysts to happen at the same time. And then the stories are going to weave back and forth, I think, and have a similar conclusion or a connected conclusion.
Yes, I agree.
Which I'm excited to see how that works out. Because Irina's got, all the jewelry, and that's how she can go through the mirror into what must be the Vristix world, because it's their silver that gets her there, and their magic through their silver that gets her there. So she escapes again and then runs into Miriam somehow, I guess, at some point. I don't know what Wanda and Sergei, her brother, do.
Yeah.
Like, how do they get wound back into it? I've got no idea.
Yeah, man, this is going to be good. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how these three things go and potentially intertwine. Maybe they don't. Maybe I'm totally wrong about that, but I feel like that's inevitable.
Oh, yeah, I don't think they necessarily... I mean, I don't know. I guess with Game of Thrones, there were several things intertwined that between the books that didn't really matter until, the final moment when they all collide. So, yeah, maybe they won't, but they've got to. I mean, they wouldn't really. I can't imagine they'd bring them up without having.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for them not to have to relate again at some point.
That's one thing too. I'm really happy about with this book. It is a single book in a very similar vein of her other book. Maybe not the same universe, but it's just like it gives me a lot of faith in this book having just a lot of depth and like a well-rounded ending and story, because obviously it got nominated for a lot of awards and it won. I believe it won, maybe not the Hugo Award, but it was the...
I remember that's what you said it was nominated for.
Yeah, it won a different award that I can't think of right now, but it's just, it doesn't have to win an award to be a good book. It just... She's like a consistently good writer. Everybody that I've read about just says like she's got a very unique way of making a story and building characters and having it all weave together. And I think we're getting a little bit of that. And for me, I think this is definitely going to be like a rereader, Yeah. And I'm going to really, I think, like it, because there's a lot with each character, and I definitely missed stuff going through. I always do, but this is going to be a lot of fun too, because these are good. Like I said, there's something likable and not likable kind of about everybody, so I can just sort of like, I feel like I get the full range of feelings a lot in this. I don't know. It's good. I'm enjoying it. And I think I'm definitely gonna reread and get her other book probably.
Yeah.
At least the other one that's related to this.
The
Untoothed. I'm just kidding.
I think it's Uprooted.
Uprooted.
I think
that's
what it was. I think I might check that one out after this one as well, just because of it being not directly related, but as they said, a similar fantasy world. I assume that means that it's just like the same mood and kind of general setting, same ideas and themes, but not necessarily the same story.
Yes.
Or even like the same idea. Like maybe magic is different in that one, but the same kind of like mood of it being a real world and, whatever, those similarities are, enough that people drew the similarities,
Right. I mean, also, I think we drew the similarity instantly just for when we were looking up the books.
The covers are almost exactly the exact same style.
Yeah.
Which could be a publisher thing. For, if they're the same publisher, it would make sense that the publisher would, maybe try to keep it the same. But yeah, it's the same font. It's the exact same sort of style of imagery, the same art style within that imagery. It's the exact same.
Yeah.
They had the same artist do those two covers, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, it's definitely the exact same format, So, yeah, I mean, if not for that one reason, I'm sure she wouldn't have said like, "Hey, make it feel the same," because I want it to be in a, I want them to draw connections between these two. That's got to be fun for her as the writer. Just a little side note. My mom is using an app called Libby, which you can use to get connected to your local library, and you can download audiobooks and listen that way. I don't know if this book is on there, but I just thought it'd be something fun to bring up.
Oh yeah, that is super useful.
Yeah, so cool. Obviously not a paid promotion, but right. Just thought it'd be interesting since that is one of the things we do. We're into libraries, we're into reading and listening to audiobooks. So
true.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty good. I think you wanna wrap up or do you, what do you have to say?
I don't know if I have too much else to say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would, if I had to guess about where things are headed.
Yeah, let's hit that.
I would say that because at this point, Wanda and Sergei are just wandering around.
Yeah.
They don't know where they're going. They don't know how to get to Visnia. They can't get anybody in town to help them get there because now they're marked people. They wandered off into the forest the last we saw them. I think what's going to happen with them,
Hansel and Gretel.
Now that I think about it, they're going to find the Varstic Road. They're going to step onto it, and it's going to transport them to the world. And then Miriam is in this process of learning about the king, because that's her new bargain, is I get to ask you 3 questions every day, and you have to answer them. And so she's in the process of learning about them. It's going to end up being some sort of situation where they end up growing respect for each other. Maybe they don't fall in love. I think that would be a stretch, but I think that they learn about each other and about each other's races, and something fosters from that.
Similar to the other book we read by John Hugh.
Oh, where Hesina gets kind of into what's his name, Akira.
Oh no, I was thinking The King Without the Tongue, and the sister.
Oh,
Hesina's sister.
Yeah,
same book.
That because Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson.
Well, man, how did I do that? My bad. Yeah, in Warbreaker, that's what I was thinking of. Sorry, you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, it's sort of a situation similar to that. I think is probably might come out of that story, and then Irina is just gonna find herself. I think she's gonna have the most boring story by a wide margin.
We'll see. She'll show you.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. That'd be awesome. She has the most growth. She turns out to be the main character.
She somehow takes down the Tsar or something like that, because the Tsar has got this deal with this demon that gives him power and magic, even though he is the son of a sorceress. And so maybe that's why he even has his foot in with the demon that he's got this deal with. But obviously the magic is not coming from him. He has a pact with some demon that he's got to appease. So
sons of sorceresses are cool.
Yeah. Geralt's cool.
Yeah.
Who else is a son of a sorceress?
I mean, this guy knows a demon. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He might not be a cool guy, but it's kind of cool that he knows a demon.
Right. That is cool points.
Yeah, man.
But that's what I think is going to happen at this point.
That's a good guess. I like it. I think that probably everybody is gonna just meet up, and then they're all gonna fall in love and happily ever after.
Oh, just like one giant polyamorous family.
Yeah, they can all live in that on the mountain with
Ice King.
Yeah,
that's how they just get away from all the hateful people.
It's so progressive and woke. It's so woke. No, honestly, I feel like it's too new for me to not too new. It's like we're still in the first section. I'm too too green in this story to even make a guess. I think honestly, like
That's fair.
I'm ready to like. I think you made great guesses though. Honestly, I think you're onto something with everything. So we'll see how close or how much we figure out. I guess in this next
Right.
little
Yeah.
section.
We're gonna read 7 chapters.
Yeah. So 11 to 7 through 17.
Through 17.
Okay.
Stop at 18.
Yeah.
It's like 125 pages or something like that. A little bit less this week, but there's no way to break apart this last half evenly, for one.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, we ourselves are going to be on a short week because Jordan's going out of town, so we're going to try and record a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so it's a little better for us to have less
works
reading,
for us, and maybe it works for y'all too, if y'all are doing anything. It is going to be championship weekend in the NFL this weekend, so maybe it will be beneficial for y'all if y'all watch football. Chapters 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, stop at 18.
Yeah, you guys know how to find us. Instagram and Twitter at ears_stamps, and then dogears and timestamps at gmail.com. Again, I'm going to say that use the Libby app and check out your local library, get a library card. And then that's always good. Just get involved a little bit with the library because they do a lot of cool stuff with books and that's what we're into. So, but yeah, use the Libby app and you can probably get books like this or other things just to download, ebooks, audiobooks, all that kind of thing. I think ebooks, I'm not 100%, but I know audiobooks, that's what my mom's using it for. Mm-hmm. So get in on that because that's some, free books.
Yeah.
And then, the, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Yeah. We'll see y'all next week. I'm Will Hedrick.
I'm Jordan Schaffer.
This is Doggers and Timestamps. Go Packers.